What's up guys, it's Mrjamvad and welcome to another episode of my series on how to master competitive Pokemon. In this video, we're going to be discussing an idea known as automatic information. Right now, it may seem like you'll need to learn a ton of information in order to get good at this. And while that is true, there is hope. As you continually play, your knowledge bank will begin to expand. Your knowledge bank in this case is your memory. You will begin to expect certain things to happen without much thought because you've experienced those situations so many times before. When information is quickly processed without much conscious effort, we refer to this as automatic information. This is important because you'd be overloading your brain with information otherwise. Your aim should be to automatize as much information as possible. This includes metagame knowledge, what EV spreads Pokemon tend to use, how much they take from getting hit by certain moves, what moves the opposing Pokemon tend to use, and the list goes on. Ideally, you want to have as much knowledge about the Pokemon within your metagame as possible, so never stop learning. This is achieved by playing. This is why I stress playing so much, because there is no shortcut for this experience. More play means more added knowledge to your bank. Your knowledge bank is only one piece to the puzzle of success. There's also the part of your brain that handles the processing of current and future events. We'll refer to it as your processor, and refer to the amount of room your brain has to process as mental RAM. The processor determines how many things you can focus on in a battle at the same time. The more efficient your processor, the more thoughts you can manage. This is different amongst players. Mental RAM, on the other hand, is similar across the board. Most people have the same amount of mental RAM. Note that this is not to be confused with your knowledge bank. Your knowledge bank is your memory, whereas your mental RAM is your finite capacity of focus. An example would be if I gave two people a task of washing a car. Each person receives a bucket of soapy water. Person number one manages to wash one car before he runs out of water, and person number two manages to wash 3 cars before he runs out of water. Both people wash the cars equally clean. However, person number 2 was more efficient. In this example, each person is the processor. The bucket of water is the mental RAM, and the cars are the problems they aim to solve. Person number 2 would have a more efficient processor because he can focus on 3 times the amount of possibilities despite them both having the same amount of mental RAM, bucket of water. Where do you stand? Do you have enough processing power to only focus on the current turn? Do you have enough to focus on the current turn and think about the next turn? Can you think about the entirety of the game? The amount of information you can process is dependent on how much automatic information you possess on the situation in front of you. Being able to hold your plans of action in mind not only requires heightened awareness, but it also requires your processor. Because your mental RAM is finite, it is critical that it is filled up with outcomes you want to achieve. The goal is to have the present turn take up less and less mental RAM as you grow as a player. When this is achieved, you will begin to develop something known as Foresight. Foresight is the ability to picture future outcomes before they happen. If you become aware of the outcomes of future turns, then you'll be able to make better decisions in the current one. If you're trying to figure out how you intend to win the game, but you have very little experience versus the Pokemon on the opposing team, then most of your mental RAM will be consumed with trying to figure out what will the Pokemon do. If you've already experienced something like that situation, then a lot more of your processor can be focused on what will I do to these Pokemon, because you already have a general idea of what to expect. It's a part of your knowledge bank. What you'll come to learn about this game is that it's not only important to have knowledge, skill, and awareness, but also how quickly you can process and put into action these things. The speed of your processor is labeled as your processing power. This is not to be confused with processing efficiency, which focuses on how many different things you can focus on at once. Two players may be the same in each category, however, one is able to process information more quickly. Being able to process the information quickly gives you time to consider other things. If player 1 takes 30 seconds to process what player 2 can do in 10, then player 2 may be able to be 3 steps ahead in a way of looking at it. But how do I improve my processor, Jam? That's a great question. You will improve your processor by the cycling of this process, haha. You will likely have already gone through these steps without realizing it, so it won't be anything overly complicated. First, we start with the most foundational pillar, knowledge. You must increase your knowledge bank to its utmost. Learn as much as you can about your metagame of interest. You can do this by playing as many games as you can in that metagame, watching other people play, and or reading up on it. Nothing new or special, always the same process when it comes to increasing the knowledge pillar. Second, store solutions in your knowledge bank. This focuses on the skill pillar. When you encounter new situations, it can sometimes be the case that you get blindsided and or defeated because you lacked either the knowledge, the skill, or the awareness. After suffering that defeat, you will gain knowledge and awareness of that situation, but you may not have the skill to prevent it from happening again. This is one of the main reasons people have very little foresight. Most of their mental RAM is concerned with trying to figure out the current turn. Until possible solutions for a problem are transferred to automatic information, it will always consume the most mental RAM. This can be achieved by simply reviewing your battle after it's done and asking yourself, what could I have done instead? Simple. As a caveat, there will exist situations where there is nothing you could have done to prevent that outcome. At that point, it is an issue in how the team was constructed more so than finding the right solution. The person with the gun always wins in a fist fight. The third step is to continually ask questions. You may follow the previous steps to a T, but in order to strengthen your foresight, you will need to constantly remain aware of where you are in relation to where you want to be. There is no point in having a roadmap if you don't reference it. Knowledge and skill, at least partly, are under the domain of your knowledge bank. Your level of awareness is the function of your processor. The information in your knowledge bank is static and does not change, though it can be added upon. For example, Toxapex typing is poison and water. That will never change. Neither will it being weak to psychic, ground, or electric moves change. With your processor, information is constantly changing and being reevaluated. Hence the emphasis on the importance of having peak awareness. As an example, Toxapex in my previous game may have been easier to defeat using an electric type move. However, in this game, that is not the case because my opponent has different Pokemon paired with Toxapex. In this case, it may be easier to defeat it with my psychic type moves or my ground type moves. Having the ability to make these decisions is a byproduct of all the pillars in conjunction with your processor. So that's going to complete today's video. If you found value in this or you want to go into more detail, then I suggest you go in the link in the description and pick up a copy of my book. This is an ebook, so you don't need a physical copy. All you will need is the Kindle app, which is free to download, and you'll be able to read the book in the comfort of your own home, from your phone, from your PC, wherever you choose to. And in that book, it will detail everything that we've discussed in this video, in all my videos, and more. If you found this video helpful, share it, leave a like, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next video.